Maybe your client or your boss is telling you your content needs to be more compelling. But what exactly does that mean? Howdy, hey folks, welcome to the Wednesday Word. Today's topic, we're going to talk about what makes content compelling. A bit more about where my perspective comes from. I actually started writing on the fiction side before I ever went into business. Business writing is actually my second writing language. The further I've gone into this industry, the more I realize there's a lot of similarities between the way we structure both fiction writing and business writing. And those points of overlap are where compelling content comes from. Where a lot of writers get stuck is they focus a lot of time on the technicals, on getting spelling and grammar just right, trying to find that right turn of phrase to make something sound catchy. And that, of course, matters. We want a common linguistic profile so that we can all agree on how a piece should sound. But when it comes to business writing, we can't forget about the number one piece, which is communicating a message clearly to your audience. So what makes content compelling? A compelling piece of content is one that meets the needs of a target audience, teaches them something new, and enraptures them in the narrative you're telling. Remember that someone who's going to be reading this piece of content is coming in likely as an industry expert, or maybe even just someone who wants to learn this industry, but there's at least some basic level of understanding and expectation what they're looking for from a piece. And we have to be able, as content writers in a marketing space, to communicate to those needs accurately. For you as the writer, that comes from really understanding the industry that you're writing about, or if you're writing on behalf of a client, understanding your client's position and where they sit in the industry. That comes from a lot of research on your own, so that's going to be reading up on industry publications, signing up for weekly newsletters, paying attention to what's hitting the wire, watching out for competitors' information. But understanding the industry also comes from experience and the trial and error of working with a client or working within an industry and learning the nuts and bolts by messing around with them yourselves. I see this overlap a lot in the fiction world where, yes, you're writing something that's fun and interesting, of course, but whoever's reading it has general expectations for how this content's going to work. For example, if you're writing science fiction and fantasy, there are very clear expectations on how long a book should be, how detailed it should go, what kind of content goes in there, how you position it in the marketplace of books and ideas. All those same factors that feed into picking a really good book that you enjoy also feed into writing a really good business article that's going to capture your audience's needs and attention. Once you've met that basic needs and expectations, your audience is also looking to learn something new or to be surprised by what's in the piece of content you're producing. If you're saying the same thing that everybody else is, well, why should they listen to you? Why waste the time and bother? And I think a lot of folks get caught up in worrying about taking perhaps a contrarian message or setting themselves apart. It's a risk. It's a creative risk and potentially a business risk depending on the industry you're in. That said, there's something unique and something interesting that you or your client you're writing on behalf of has to say about an industry or marketplace. You wouldn't be in business unless you had something different that you believe sets you apart from your competitors. The trick is pulling that out of folks through really good interviewing and good positioning and delivering that into the content itself. But that opens up a lot of doors to go and teach people new concepts and new perspectives of how to look at the world around them or how to look at the business they do every day. Again, it's much the same in the fiction world. If you're reading essentially a Game of Thrones clone over and over and over again, it's going to get really dull and boring. And in fact, you're just reading a facsimile of what you perceive to be a better book. You're going to go back and read the first book in the first place. You're not creating enough of a niche and enough of a reason for people to come back and be interested in what you have to say. Those two pieces matter, but you also have to package everything up within a narrative that's going to really hold people's attention, pull them in, and keep them there. Attention spans are notoriously short, and yeah, you don't necessarily want to cater to that, but at the same time, you're competing against a massive ocean of ideas and content out there, and it's really hard to hold people's attention. Plus, when they give it to you, they expect some kind of return in kind. This is an investment of their time, the most precious commodity they have. So yes, we're telling them something really interesting and insightful, but we also want to do it in a way that delights, entertains, makes you think, makes you stop and take notice. And this is where a lot of B2B content really misses the mark. We get so nervous around perhaps alienating people, or thinking that if we put something in an interesting turn of phrase, or try to make it fun and engaging, we're not being businessy enough, we're not serious enough for our customers to take us seriously and come buy from us. But again, buyers are people. We tend to forget that a lot in this kind of writing. Buyers are human beings looking to be entertained, delighted, to relax, to find answers to the questions that plague them, that keep them up at night. And if you can craft a narrative that really enthralls people's attention, if you have a really strong hook in the first 2 sentences that gives me a reason to continue, if you're bringing in lots of good examples that relate to me, right, meet those basic needs of the target market, if you're connecting ideas and they flow really well and I can follow it from A to B to C to D, that's going to be the kind of stuff I'm going to expect to go read over and over and over again, and you're going to hook me in as a potential client and most likely a future buyer. This probably has the easiest corollary with the fiction stuff I've seen, where you could have the best ideas in the world and have a really great plot and really great characters, but if you don't have the interstitial tissue connecting all this stuff together, if it's not interesting and fun to read, I'm not going to waste my time. There are thousands of other books out there I can go spend my time with. It's the most precious commodity I have, is my time. Why would I waste it on something that doesn't hold my attention? Those 3 pieces are what come together and create compelling content. That's the kind of stuff that holds people's attention, gets them to think about the world and think about your positioning within the world, and then moves them down that funnel to become better buyers. We'll have more in the coming weeks on the tactical pieces of how to create this compelling content. But just start thinking about this stuff now, and go back and read some of the stuff you've been working on and see if it fits this model. See if you're maybe missing those really interesting transitions that keep my attention so I don't get lost. Or are we really saying something interesting here? Are you finding that unique take that stands out in the marketplace? And really, are you meeting the expectations of what your buyers are looking for? Are we talking about things that are relevant and urgent to them, that matter? That's the kind of stuff that is going to be the guideposts for our later videos on creating this kind of compelling content. Thanks for your time, gang. It's the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending it with me.